Okay, so this video covers boring holes and a strengthening structure for the Nashorn tank destroyer. Before we get started though, I do want to mention that in the scoring lines video, I neglected to mention that these lines on the gun breech here need to be scored. So there's 3 lines here. And this platform extension, there's 2 of these. That'd be really gentle because it's just cue card paper. And I forgot to score these lines here on the main body here, so make sure you get those scored or score them before the pieces. These are a lot easier to score before you cut this out, so if you haven't yet, avoid doing that until it's done. Okay, so for boring holes, I've just got a little bit of pen here. You can use a needle or whatever. Now I'm going to avoid doing this one until it's actually attached, just because it's so close to the edge that quite often you'll push through and you don't want that to happen. And I'm just going to use this to make sure I get a guide hole in the center of each of these areas here, because quite often the bit will slide around a little bit. And I want to do these guide holes. And there's one on here. Now I've got a 1/16 bit here. If you can get it with a nice backing on it, they're a little bit more effective, but I've just wrapped tape around this to make it easier on my fingers. It's a good method, because otherwise, if you're doing a lot of these holes at once, it can really hurt your fingers. And obviously there's the right side and the left side for the hull, so you'll be doing twice as many holes in this side of the hull as me. Well, as I'm showing. I'm not going to show both sides. And like I said, it's just a lot easier to get your bit centered when you've got that guide hole there. So be very careful with this one on the end. Don't want to go through any of the edges. Move it down a little bit if you're worried. And just be very gentle finishing that hole. You may find that you get a bunch of delamination here. Just sort of infuse that with 2-to-1 glue. Press it together again, and you should be able to reform the piece if it's coming apart. Most important, not to push through any of the sides, though. And did that one already? Okay, so now we can move on to reinforcing the structure. Now the rest of these pieces are small enough, or so exposed on both sides, that you can't really reinforce them. But there are a couple pieces that I want to show being reinforced. Now, the whole bottom here. Now, even though this little foot thing attaches here when we form the structure, we're still going to cover it with a layer, because actually I've sort of redesigned the template so that there's a little bit of extra lift on this leveling post. There's supposed to be something underneath it. So just cut a thinner piece of cardboard and make sure it's shorter by a little bit on either side. And then hand flatten the piece as best you can here. Both pieces. I'm going to need a few extra of these. And some glue here. Here we go. So just slather some glue on either piece. Shouldn't matter which piece you get glue on. Just try not to throw it on the table repeatedly. And you definitely want to make sure you have your folds started before you do this, so you can see exactly where you need to be attaching it. Nothing worse than reinforcing an area where it needs to fold. Now you can use 3 of these per side, 4 of these per side. It shouldn't really matter what you've chosen, but just make sure that it's flat once you're doing this. And by using 2 pieces of cardboard like this, generally it will sort of flatten itself. But just make sure that it has done that. And then we're going to reinforce this piece, but we don't want to use cardboard because this needs to be lifted out. So you cut 2 flat toothpicks and just go through the toothpicks and make sure they're actually flat before you use them. And we want to put a little line of glue sort of as close to this as you can, because you're going to need a little bit of room on the inside here to fit the wheel returner roller things on the chassis. So just try to fit these in as far away from the edge as you can and as close to that little hatch opening as possible. And again, between 3 and 4 mini clothespins here to cinch that up nicely. And again, just make sure it's flat. Now I'd recommend using 4 glue on water for this, just so it's a little bit thicker than the 2-to-1 that you've been using so far. Makes it bond a little quicker and makes the bonds really strong with the wood. And that reinforces the, like these smaller parts, then you're not really going to have an issue with them bowing. You might do this part, but it's not strictly necessary. I'll do it quickly anyways. Generally this part won't bow too much, but sometimes it does a little bit. So we can always just prevent that now. You don't need a large piece, like you don't have to cover the whole area. In fact, you don't want to go too close to the edges at all. And get that done. And you should be ready to go on to the next video where we'll actually form the basic chassis shape. Thanks for watching. Hope you like this video. Please sign up for the website. Support us if you can. If not, spread the word. It's all good. Thanks for watching. See you soon.